Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker and today I am going to be interviewing the first ever Disney Lorcana World Champion, Ding Kang fan himself, DKP. This is a super long one. DKP goes into a lot of depth, so I want to get straight into it. A shout out to the channel sponsor Cardmarket. If you're looking for Lorcana singles at competitive rates, then check out Cardmarket. But let's have a chat with the first ever World Champion. And as promised, it is my distinct pleasure, for the first time ever, we've referenced this man on the channel what feels like pretty much every episode. It's really hard not to when you've got a deck that's basically been named after you. But we are welcoming to the channel for the first time, and what a time to do it, the first ever Disney Lorcana World Champion! Ding Kang fan himself, DKP! Welcome, there he is, yeah, you flex it. That's exactly what I want to see. My man. Yeah, we wanted to see it, man. My man, first off, the only way to start this, really, other than introducing you, is to just say congratulations, man. Like, what an accomplishment. About a year into the game, I was watching the World Class Cards channel earlier on, where I know you've been uploading some vlogs, and there's more to come, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into it. But I heard you say in that interview that Worlds kind of marks about a year since you've kind of been in the game, and what a way to cap it off. So I want to start off by just saying congratulations and thanks so much for taking the time to come and have a chat with me.
No problem. I really enjoy talking to you, so I'm really happy to be here.
Thanks for saying that. It's genuinely my pleasure. And I meant what I said at the beginning, like, it's weird that you've never been on, because genuinely it's hard to cover a deck list these days without mentioning you at least every other episode. But because, I mean, like, the Lorcana community, deck names are very, like, no one has named a deck after that. And even you didn't name this deck after yourself. Like, it just happened naturally as part of the community. But it is a token to what you've brought to the community. So we're going to talk about a host of things predominantly to do with the World Championship. Your entire run, your preparation, and what life's been like post-World Championship. But hopefully, if World Championship did its job right, we got a bunch of new players that were checking out World Stream for the first time, saw it, and were like, oh, this looks pretty cool. And hopefully they're now down a rabbit hole, consuming content, trying to learn the game and learn about all these players that they saw. So I think it's important to start off, even if it's only 2 minutes, 5 minutes, however long you think appropriate, to do just a basic introduction to who you are with a focus on your history in card games before Lorcana. So please, tell us a little bit about that.
So first, hello, my name is Ding Kang Pham, also known as DKP, my initials basically, in the community. And I started playing Lorcana since June 2024, so roughly 1 year ago. Before that, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Highly competitive, meaning attending all major events in Europe, also almost all smaller events in Europe, and some of the NA events. Also, one time I was in Mexico, one time I was in Canada for Yu-Gi-Oh! events. Yeah, also had decent results there. Unfortunately, never had a win. But yeah, that's where I started. My TCG journey was 2016, roughly. Technically, the end of 2015. But really started in 2016. Started traveling a bit for like German nationals, like these closer like major events. And then after I just got hooked by all the things like traveling, having testing circuits and so on. Yeah, exactly, the TCG culture. I started traveling for more and more events, got more and more competitive, built some routines, some concepts for myself to test the most efficient way and so on. And yeah, that's where I started. I switched to Lorcana last year, as I said. Then I started competing directly. My first event was the DLC Bochum, where I unfortunately bubbled out. I was top 128, where I got the Lego at least. It was my first event ever. That's why I didn't play that well. But the event afterwards was, I think, 2 weeks after DLC Dallas Fort Worth. I got top 16, lost against Ed. in top 16. Unfortunate. Yeah, that was it's
Wow,
kind of ironic.
that's a full circle moment. We'll come back to
Yes,
that
yes.
when we get to talking about the finals. But yeah, please go
Yeah,
on.
I actually talked with Ed during the finals about that, but then directly afterwards, I had the DLC Bologna 2 weeks afterwards. I had I got the top 8 gold Mickey. Yeah, unfortunately I don't have it anymore, but so that's that was my first gold Mickey. Also at that point I already got my double invite, so that was really neat.
Yeah,
basically almost the first try. So I was really happy, got my golds, and it was also I think that moment where I declared that I want a DLC win, words invite, and the words win.
Yeah.
So it was in August, I think. Yeah, I made a post about it where I talked about my future goals in this game, and luckily for me, I achieved everything by now.
Is that something you've always done? Did you do that with Yu-Gi-Oh or just other elements of your life? Is that a thing? It was just.
It was literally the first time. Yeah, first time I actually just called out my goals and then actually focused on them. Never did that before. Didn't really.
That's brave. It's brave, right? Because as soon as you put that out into the world, there's always that receipt of like, didn't happen. You know what I mean? And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I actually think it's quite a cool concept of like, you know, it's almost like a letter to your future self, right? You know, in this moment, this is what I condensed this is what I wanted. This was my passion. And even if you fail, you can go back and look at it and think, okay, why didn't those things happen? You just happen to be in a unique position where they all happened. And does that lead us to Melbourne?
Yeah, basically, like, so I had multiple tries, quote unquote, tries for the words to get. I went to the European Continental, wasn't enough. NA Continental wasn't enough. Although I think I prepared myself well, but I couldn't get into the zone. I misplayed both my win and ins, so that was bad. But for Melbourne, I just was in the zone. I had a deck that nobody expected, the DKP Shark deck, right? Nobody expected that. Nobody had outs against the Shark, so every single time I summoned the Shark, it was almost game over because nobody could out him. So it was really nice to had such an edge over the competition, and for that I kept my hit list hidden for like 3 or 4 months. I started playing it in November or December, like when Shark got announced already. I started playing the list similar already, but I haven't refined it yet. It needed like a few more weeks, or like rather 2 Continentals to refine it.
Yeah.
But then it was refined, and yeah, Melbourne was a great experience. Got first place in Swiss and in the end, and yeah, that was the start of the words journey, right? Then preparing for it and so on, and then
finally got that invitation to the World Championship, and that leads us to what we'll spend most of the time talking about today. But yeah, what a run. And like, it's a story that we've told on commentary quite a lot, which like to do with what led to what is now called the DKP list, because you said like you were playing this list basically from when Shark came out, but it needed 2 Continentals and time for you to refine it. But even before Shark, you were playing Ruby Sapphire pretty religiously, right? And it was interesting to see the story from this initial concept, because even early on before Shark, you were playing different version of Red Blue to a lot of what the rest of the Lorcana community were playing. So it was genuinely really interesting to see as events go on, you just add these pieces and like try out different things, and it slowly became the shell, which then it seemed the missing piece was Maui Half Shark for you to then go, okay, we lean into this, and then spending a couple of events locking down what has come to be, again, known as the DKP list, with a lot of people copying it, making very few changes. I know you've fluttered around with cards like All Is Found in the past, which I quite made a point of saying DKP's favourite ink, because I know you were hyping it up, and in the event I cast it, I don't think you ever got to play it. But again, that's it's all part of the testing, right? You know, that's your data gathering, and yeah, it leads you all the way up to the World Championships. That leads us on to section 2, which I've labelled Boot Camp, and I know there was quite specifically a boot boot camp with world class cards, which I'd love to hear all about. And again, a shout out to the World Class Cards YouTube channel, who have already uploaded a couple of pieces of content showing an interview with you and an overall summary. It was a really beautiful house, and they've said there's going to be more content. They will be linked down below, but I'd still love to get your thoughts on it. But not just the boot camp, right? It was confirmed, obviously, should be no surprise. The World's players knew about the format a bit before everybody else. So I want you to start there. From the moment that you know the format that you're going into, and bearing in mind we didn't have Reign of Jafar yet, so that's another interesting part of the conversation I'd like you to bring up, like how much that changed. Because I will say, you're not running a single Reign of Jafar card in your free deck list, so that in itself is interesting.
Yes.
So maybe you'll say it changed nothing, but maybe you tested some stuff, I don't know. I basically want to get your whole thoughts on the testing process from the moment you found out the format all the way up to the day you submitted your deck lists.
So yeah, we knew about it before, as you said. It was a surprise for me, and I think for everyone, that we had to not only run the 3 deck constructor, but also sealed.
Yeah.
Because the 3 deck constructor, I think, is awesome. I mean, it has flaws, but the entire concept just is so skillful. You can do so much, like benching strategies, switching up benching strategies, bringing really unique lineups that try to aim to beat different things, right? That's really awesome, I think. But the sealed portion, that was a bit worrisome, because me personally, I only played sealed for fun in Magic, the pre-releases and so on. Never like competitively or even try to go competitive in sealed. So I just didn't know what to expect for for this for Lorcana. And when I heard about it, I actually didn't even start testing yet. I only theorized a bit in my head about, like, okay, what lineup exists, right? We have red blue, this, and then after a while you will realize, oh, only a handful of lineups are really viable. There are some potential lineups like that can include like green, blue, emerald, sapphire with the items, for example, that targets heavily on ruby. So at some point I also realized, oh, everybody needs to play ruby, and most ruby decks, almost all of them, are quite similar, right? Kind of slow, kind of mid-rangey or controlish, and you can do something against this, or rather target it. Of course, there's like Ruby Amber, which was super fast, so that falls out of it, but then they probably have another deck that is rather slow, and you still can try to target that. But in general, that is something I think everybody was noticing, like, oh, most likely everybody will play Ruby Sapphire, so that is a potential target. And then you can sit down like and think about, okay, how can I target that? Because that's where I started personally. I'm thinking about, okay, can I play like triple aggro? Can I play, or maybe 2 aggro decks and a Ruby Sapphire deck that is really built heavily on the mirror match, right? I could build like the Shark build as a complete mirror destroyer by just running good cards for the mirror match, and it works. But the issue then is, if your other decks lose against Ruby Sapphire, which can happen, because it's never 100%, then you will be in a disadvantage, because then you focus so much on Ruby Sapphire and now you can just lose to their 3rd deck, which is bad. So that's why I end up having this lineup, but we can talk about it in a bit. For the prep itself, for sealed, we actually started testing, Kurt and me, and at some point also Frank. We tested with set 5, 6, and 7 only. Like we only drafted.
So we had at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Like we didn't know the set 8 cards, so we only started doing that to learn more about the sealed portion of Lorcana, or rather me, right? Because Kurt and Frank are actually excellent sealed players from Magic. They both played sealed quite a lot, and they enjoy it quite a lot, and I was quite new to it, so they teach me all the basics, like what is the curve looking like, what are the good stats for like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drops and so on. Although they always say put any good or decent 5 or 6 drop into your deck. Like, doesn't even matter what they do. Just put them in, as long as they are not completely bricks. And yeah, they teach me all this, and then they teach me how to how to build out the curve, like how many copies you need of a 4 drop, 3 drop, and so on. That was also really, really helpful, because before that I knew how the bodies should look like and so on, but I just didn't know the most optimal amount. And and over time I just not mastered, but was good enough to, I would say, to beat
to pick it up. And you had great coaches, as you say, they were very good at it in Magic, so you had the right teachers for you to pick things up at a relatively fast pace.
Exactly. And the more interesting thing is the 3-deck part, because we start with the most rogue decks ever. Like, we started with Sapphire Amber, Ruby Amber. Like, we start with this deck first to get it out of our system, just to see how well they perform. Because if you start with the good stuff that you already know that is good, first you will be like, maybe the other things are better, and I have to test that, and like you get doubts. So we test that first to see how good they're performing. Also Blurple and every single lineup where you think, oh, they might have a weakness and so on, which ended up being, yes, they have a weakness. That's why we didn't want to play them and want to go closer to the 2 obvious lineups where you have Ruby Sapphire, Purple Steel, Yellow Green, and the other one with Amber Steel and Green Purple. So these 2 lineups were our like main targets, or like main lineups. After a while of testing all the other lineups, we also consider playing something like Emerald, Sapphire items, and then go 1 deck Hyper Aggro, 1 deck Steel, like Zac. But my issue was just that Ruby Sapphire was a bit more flexible, and I know how to play the Shark build really, really well, right? So I was like so confident in it that I can beat the mirror match, especially with the hideaway tech. So I just didn't want to switch up that, and in the end,
you got so many miles with this deck. It seems silly not to use them at the World Championship unless you had a really good reason not to. Like if Reign of Jafar had maybe put a spanner in the works, I'm sure you would have considered moving away from it if you thought it was best. But again, your experience on it, and you're expecting a lot of mirrors, and you're confident there. So that does make a lot of sense. And this is leading up to before Reign of Jafar is even released, right?
Reign of Jafar, when slowly got released, we weren't that impressed. The only cards that we were impressed were like steel cards mostly, right? Beyond the Horizon stuff and the Rhino. But overall, it wasn't really interesting for the seal. Like, Chernadog was really good. That's mostly Kurt's side, right? And he's like a huge Chernadog fan. But I wasn't such a fan of it. And I have to say also, for the preparation, this lineup was made like days or like 1 day before Worlds. Like, I had a completely different lineup. It was the same colors but different lineups before. Like, this was finalized literally on Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday before Worlds.
Fair.
So yeah, it was actually close. But the testing still makes sense because it made clear what I don't want to run, right? So that just narrowed down the choices. So that helped a lot.
So I suppose that was due to the boot camp that you say it was like literally the few days before. I imagine the boot camp really helped to like solidify your thoughts on that if these builds look slightly different. So do please tell us a little bit about that whole boot camp experience, both from a social and a professional standpoint.
Yes, the boot camp was crazy. I can tell you that.
I bet.
I planned it to be wake up, play Lorcana, go back to sleep, and it was basically that. So I woke up most of the time later than everyone else, because not like everyone else, but most of the guys, because they just woke up early, started playing either sealed pools or just testing in general. I always stayed up to like 3 or 4 a.m. That's why I need a bit longer sleep. They already started playing, so I was just joining in. We had, by the way, a lot of displays, like we still had afterwards a lot of cases left.
I've seen. I'll show the clip in the video of Rob opening the suitcase with these boxes.
Like we had enough resources to play sealed. But I actually didn't play that many sealed pots. Like I would say 12 or so, roughly 12, 15, round about that number. But yeah, it was literally that. Waking up, playing, eating. We bought a lot of food in the boot camp, so we just can always cook, always have food and drinks. We didn't need to go out. Sometimes we still did go out, especially on Tuesday for the Disney World. But yeah, we just played, trying to figure out what is the best lineup, or not even the best lineup, but what just makes sense, right? Because in my opinion, you don't even need the best lineup. You just need a really coherent one where you have a game plan against almost all lineups. So you can always have like a plan A, plan B, and if it's possible, also plan C, depending on if you lose or win the games you expected to win or lose. And yeah, that was really nice. And it was so much fun with all the guys. We talked all day, laughed so much, make so many jokes.
Yeah. It's a fun crew. Fun crew.
Yeah, it's really fun. Like I don't think there was one moment where it was like awkward or annoying or whatever. It was always so much fun. Like I would do it again, like in a blink. Like I would do it again for any big event. But yeah, for Worlds it was just a special because we had 3 people in, right? Kurt, Frank, and I. Everybody just gave their best to put us into the position where we can just perform the best and ultimately win the Worlds. That was just, I would even say, magical to experience, because everybody walked towards that goal. Like there was not a single ounce of like, oh man, I wish I would be there and so on, like everybody was just hyper focused to get us 3 in the best position.
That's amazing. Yeah, like we mentioned it at the beginning, like you fell in love with the TCG culture. And when it comes to like TCG culture, I think that's kind of like, that's the goal, right? That sort of situation where like a world championship, just a big testing house with all of your friends, everyone gets on, and like everyone's supporting the people that are actually going into the main event. Like, again, not on that scale, but similarly to you, my history is Yu-Gi-Oh! As well before you started, but that was when before Lorcana, that's the last time I was like playing a competitive game, and from the perspective of a player as well. I wasn't casting that, but some of my best memories are the socials around like leading up to the UK National Championship. And I remember me and the team I was on went to California to play in an SJC, and like we had a whole leading up to that flight, we had a whole like long few days in someone's just racked up in someone else testing, having fun. So like, again, not to that scale, but I can relate to that social experience, and I imagine that put you in a really good frame of mind going into it, as well as, of course, hopefully feeling really secure concerning your strategy. And that's what we're going to go into now. The next 2 topics are the strategy that you had, but like when you were locked in, and then we're going to go into you actually talking about the run. Now, I will start this section off by saying I'm sure you've got a bunch of Metafy content that's going to be coming out over the next few days, weeks, where you're going to be talking to your community and like going into a whole new level of deep, I'm sure, and I absolutely want to respect that. And feel free to leave out some Easter eggs where you feel appropriate, and we'll link to the Metafy down below and all that jazz. But I would love it if you give my audience as big a bite into the spice as possible and just give us some insight. So I want to start off with, what was the core strategy going into day 1? I'm sure it was adaptable based on what you were up against, but you've locked in these decks. Do you have a strategy in terms of, okay, I'm always banning this, I'm always running this into this, I want this deck on the play, I want this deck on the draw? Anything that you can share with us concerning the game plan before you even started round 1?
So yeah, let's put the sealed part aside, because that was the more important part, right? You need to perform sealed first before you can perform constructed. But yeah, for the sealed part, first I have to say this, I always wanted to play this lineup, like Ruby Sapphire, Amethyst Steel, and Amber Emerald. But it was just difficult to find the third deck, because first I was playing Ruby Sapphire Shark, Purple Steel aggro, like really hyper aggro with like Pinocchio and Maleficent. Shout out to Luminator. He is like the genius behind the Purple Steel Hyper Aggro. Like his builds were always so innovative. So he gave me a build with like the Desperate Plan,
Nice.
the one drops that are cycling, so you can discard like your dead uninks. And this was my original plan, and then I needed just any Amber Emerald, mid-rangey build. Like I cannot go too hyper aggro decks, right? That's impossible. So that was the first strat. And the only problem I faced was that the Emerald Amber deck never performed as I wanted to. Like the dog deck didn't perform as well as I want to, and the discard version Lemon Lime just didn't perform at all for me. Like I lost like 5 times in a row against Ruby Sapphire Shark, which should be like an insane matchup, but I just lost 5 times in a row. Even though I discard the entire hand, have like 10 cards in my hand. 7 out of the 10 cards were completely dead because they were all discard cards, or like just low value buddies, and then one sees to wipe my entire board, followed by a mana. I'm like, I can't even do anything. I just lose to that. So I switched, or like not switched, but I was really desperate. And on Tuesday, 4 a.m., I was sitting there with Justin Shaft, Candle, and I don't remember if just Jonathan Lamb was also there, but we were just sitting there. I'm like, wait. Or I said like, wait, can't we just run hyper aggro Lemon Lime? Instead of not even dogs, but just hyper aggro, because we need one deck that always goes first, right? There's always one deck that goes first. All the time. So I can just run that, and if they don't ban it, we can build it in a way that we win against everything on the play always, or like most likely, right?
Yeah.
So we start building. We just threw in some, the usual stuff that is good on the play. And then next day we had the Disney World trip with Robert, where he got us a VIP trip. Was really amazing. And then directly afterwards at like 11 p.m. we started testing the hyper aggro. And then it hit me like it was so bad. Suddenly I was never winning. Mainly because I played I kicked some cards that I shouldn't kick. That was Prince Philip and Kid Cloud Kicker, because I was losing to stuff like my opponent just goes wide and sinks under the sea, and for that you need the Cloud Kicker just to bounce like an aerial that slows them down enough so you can just quest out for game, or at least close to game, where you just spam a lot of bodies afterwards, like not even a lot, but just spam like a 2-lower body turn after turn. They need to get rid of it every single time, and then you win eventually. And then the Prince Eric for Ward. And the more interesting thing is, I was still not winning all the time. And then I just, I kept losing to something like when my opponent was fast enough, I lost against Elsa's, Bruno's, and so on. And then I was like, okay, let me type in Ward into Dreamborn. Kara, Jetsam popped up, and I put every single 3-cost Ward, like every cheap 2-lower Ward body in that is also inkable. And that's why I have 12 in. Like I didn't even min-max try to find the optimal ratio, like I could have just said, okay, let's play 10 and then put in some, I don't know, lady, because I also kicked the 3-cost lady, the new one. That was my only set 8 card, by the way. Reign of Jafar card.
Yeah, there you go.
But I was like, I don't even want to think about it. I have my 21 drops in. I just open triple 1 drop most likely. If not, I open at least 1 drop into either Piglet or the Olivia Flaversham. That's also almost as fast and should be fine. And so I didn't think about that, and suddenly it was working perfectly because the Ward characters just gave me the reach. You can compare them to like White Rose in Amethyst, but this one you cannot just target, right? So you just slammed on Ward, and the quest for 4 almost guaranteed. And yeah, that was awesome. Also added the Sven just to have like some recursion power for the Olivia or like the Piglet, just ready them again for more 3 more lore against some decks. That's awesome. And yeah, the deck was suddenly working, and then I was like, okay, that works. I know from Justin that the Broom deck works, and I trust him fully. So I was like, okay, I will just net deck you. So I net deck him. It was literally this build plus 3 genies and 2 snakes. And while I was playing, I was like, I started playtesting on Thursday, this deck, the Broom deck, yeah? So 1 day before Worlds. So that's why I always miss the Smee damage, because I never played Smee before.
Fair.
So I played Calhoun before. That's why my 2-drop was Calhoun, not Smee, because before this I banned Diablo and not Steel. So I was, Kalun's better enthusiast than me. And about this list, I just tested, and then I was like, the Snake gameplay with like Snake bounce and sit, replay him, or like Snake plus a Pete, repeating on 5 ink is so crucial that I want to play 3 Snakes, and I had the 3rd Genie in, and I understood the Genie, but he was so clunky with the dog that I said, okay, 2 is enough for me. I still want to play him from time to time, and then I just kick 1 Genie, play 3 Snakes, and I was fine with that. Also, you can see one thing that is normally included in Amethyst deal, which is the friends on the other side. I decided against it and decided to play library. So, I mean, Justin too, right? We decided to play library because library is so much better into the Ruby Sapphire decks. When they board wipe you, you can either develop library before that, so they cannot really board wipe you, or you develop after board wipe, which is also awesome. And you're playing against Ursula decks, right? I don't ban Ursula decks, so I just want less songs in general too. So only 4 songs. They see my list, they know, oh, I can never ever use Ursula on 2, only if I need the body to sing, of course. But if I can do a better play on 2, just don't do Ursula, because I only have 4 songs and the likelihood to hit is so low. So that's also a big reason why I don't play friends. And then for my Shark deck, took me the least time because I almost played my deck.
I was gonna say, I imagine this was the one that changed the least leading up to the event. But one card that, again, I've been covered most. I'm sure you've played it in testing a lot, but I don't remember you playing this carpet bag a lot. Maybe one event. Again, I'm talking about like DLCs and stuff like that. Never. None at all. I didn't think so. So again, I am actually a carpet believer. Carpet bag believer. I've seen some people cook with it. Shout out to SLTC. But what were your reasonings and why this came to the deck?
So I talked about that in my masterclass already, like weeks ago or a month ago. That carpet bag is a viable inclusion. I didn't like it before in Constructed because the meta was so wide and varied that you don't want a dead card like carpet bag in your hand whenever you face like, I don't know, an aggro deck or whatever, or you just miss your popsicle. But for this tournament, if you think about my ban, which was Steel, on my bench, I will most likely face Ruby Sapphire 50% of the time, right? Because I need to face both decks. So I just want something more for the Ruby Sapphire matchup where I can just outgrind my opponent, and it is phenomenal against any slower deck, against Ruby Sapphire, against Ruby Amethyst, against Amethyst Sapphire, like purple. It destroys them if you can start looping while also doing other things. So that was my reason. You saw it on stream. I outgrinded Federico quite well, right, with this tech. And also my tech Hideaway, I already knew I want to play Hideaway because it's a way to beat items. Like if they only have 1 workshop and you hit the first workshop, they will be out of gas immediately, because then the entire hand, even if they have like 5 cards in, 4 of them are pretty much dead items, or like Sisus and whatever. And that just puts you in an amazing position as a Shark deck, because you can just push, like you can push like Tamatoa, Shark, Magda Mana and so on, and they cannot do much because they need to find the next workshop. I wanted to play 3 Hideaway, to be honest. I should have in hindsight, but it still worked out with 2 against them Federico. I just wanted to have it the first one always, and to have something consistently. I think you need to play it as a 3 off or a 4 off in the early game, of course. So playing 2 was a bit risky, but in the end was fine, I guess. But if I had to repeat, I would think I would play 3. But it's okay. The Brawls were also inclusion because I said, I banned Steel, so I don't need to face me. So I can just play Brawl, because Goofy mainly was there to beat Smees and 1-drops and so on. So I played Brawl for the Diablos, but it was such a mistake. I should have played Goof 100%, because I always keep underestimating my own key card, basically. And that's just, the Goof is for the lore gain also. Sometimes you're sitting there, you're at 16, or 14, you're like, I have 1 Pirate's Life in hand, and maybe 1 more Goof instead of the Brawl, and then I would be at 18. I just need 1 more card to somehow get to 20, like maybe Shark plus 2 actions or something even. So I regretted not playing Goof. The Brawl were really bad, even against like Diablos was so bad. Yeah, so if I could repeat, I would 100% play Goof over the Brawls, but else I knew already what I want to change for the Shark deck, so I didn't need to do much. And then for the strat, as I said before, I wanted to have a deck that is really strong on the play, like that most likely will win on the play. Doesn't matter what you face, besides Steel maybe, but I bench it, so I don't have to worry about that if I'm on the play. So let's say if I win the dice roll, I'm on the play. They don't ban my Hyper Aggro for some reason. I just got the first game already, and then I have 2 games with my other deck, which both of them are really strong on the draw. That's the entire concept, right? So the Hyper Aggro is only good for the on the play and when you bench Steel, and the other decks are really, really strong on the play, like phenomenal on the play, but also really strong on the draw. I think that besides Green Steel, these 2 decks are the best on the draw decks for this format, or maybe in the entire game, maybe even, I don't know. Just because you can do so much. Like the Steel deck is still a Steel deck and plays cannons on top, so you can even out-tempo your opponent certain plays. The Shark deck is still a Shark deck. Has Rushmores, has Talas, like going to that. Of course, with Goofus would be much better, but Brawl was also okay sometimes to slow the opponents down.
Yeah.
And overall, that was the strat. There were 2 assumptions that you need to make, or that I needed to make. And first is the Hyper Aggro was winning on the play consistently, which it did. And then the second one, I was winning the mirror most of the time, which I also did, actually. So these are the 2 assumptions I need to have for this lineup. I need to be really confident in the mirror, which I was. And then the Hyper Aggro, and then everything just was really good already. And then the third deck was the last drop that the entire deck needed. And it was a deck that was beating up Ruby Sapphire on the play super high consistently. Like even my best Shark hands cannot beat it. They beat the best Broom hands. And against items, it doesn't matter if you're on the play or on the draw, because you would just burn them out. Like you would just reach the 20 lore, Goats, Cobra, and just occasional quests here and there. Or especially Yensid early game, you would just get to 20, and they don't play Pirate's Life. That means even if they board wiped you in the end, you would just get there somehow. Especially like Library on top. Like if you go Library, move stuff in before they can Sisu you, that's already insane. And yeah, and on top of all of this, the Broom deck was beating up Diablo decks really bad,
Okay.
like really bad. The win rate against Diablo is abysmally high because you have the Brooms, you have the Cannons, and also
yeah.
Genies, and there's way too much stuff for my opponents to deal with when they try to shift Diablo. So every single time they go like 1-drop Diablo that can look in your hand, they see I have like at least 1 Diablo out now. They cannot shift anymore, but if they don't shift, what are they doing? And they just give me the time to develop, and then suddenly I just overwhelm them. Deck is really fast with Yensid. It's amazing. I covered, I think, every single deck. There was some list when we checked the deck list that I was a bit worried about, mainly because I didn't play Goof. If I played Goof, I would worry about nothing. But for example, also like the lineup of Zach Bivens, if I'm on the draw against it, it was really rough because his purpose here was actually built to beat my Shark deck, which I fortunately enough won that match. Else, I think I would have lost the top 4 if I didn't win that. Would be close because he would be on the play with this item deck against my Hyper Aggro, so might be still winnable. I haven't tested, but it would be much closer than it was actually in the end. Yeah, but overall, I think I had one of the most coherent lineups. Like the lineup from Maelstrom, Sailor, and Luke was similar, was really close. It was just, the difference was just I played Purple Steel, they played Green Steel. I just didn't like to play Green Steel because the Diablo shift is too much variance, where this, in my opinion, was super high consistent because every single thing of Broom was inkable. And then against it, when it just pops up, it's like so many doors, so much lore at once, and the lore pressure is just so much higher and so much faster. Like there's not a single hand of Ruby Sapphire items, I think that can consistently beat this. Like even if you can choose 7 cards, I don't think there's a hand that can consistently beat this deck just because they don't have the Pirate's Life. That was just a big reason why I chose this deck over any other Amethyst Steel deck, because there are a lot, right? There's the Rabbit version, there's the normal aggro version, there's like the more control version. Like there's so many
Jafar.
versions.
There was even Jafar in
And
the
Jafar,
room.
and Jafar. But Jafar would be also quite obvious, right? And if you say I ban Steel, but this one was just beating the Diablo decks, beating Ruby Sapphire. So what's left? Like if you bench Steel, like what's left? Like most of the time it's Diablo and Ruby Sapphire. So if that deck beats both, the Hyper Aggro beats everything on the play, and my Ruby Sapphire has also a high chance to beat all of these decks. Well, what can stop me, right? That was my thought. So yeah, that's why I was really happy to bring it. Just some single card choices I was not happy about, but else I was. The broad concept I was really happy. And as you said, no set 8 cards. My only set 8 card was Lady, but Kurt like gaslighted me the entire day on Thursday on the decklist submission day that I needed to cut her because she's just a worse 1-drop. And like, okay, then I put in Pegasus to have more 1-drops, so I have like consistent triple 1-drop starts. But overall, I think it was a mistake. I should have played Lady.
You
because
would have run the Lady. Okay.
Yeah, I would rather have the Lady. It's okay because most of the time when I actually was able to play the deck, I open like Daisy, Merfolk, Lilo, or something with Fred. Fred's also awesome because at some point they need to trade into him, and then I still gain 2 lore, which is massive.
If you're banning Steel, then Fred seems kind of good.
Yeah.
A comment on the Pegasus though. I'm sure Ravensburger are glad you played it because you're going to be a great selling point for the participation promo next season. This was in the deck of a world champion, so come and get it. So. Yeah, hats off to Ravensburger. Yeah, no, thank you so much for the deep dive there. Genuinely really fascinating. Also on this red-blue deck, I do find it a little bit funny that Brawl and Goofy seem to be the cards you've been having arguments with over the course of the DLC season, because they are the counts that seem to go up and down. Like there was a point you were at 4 full Goof. I've seen it at 1, at 2, and Brawl is another one I've seen you cut down to 2 or 3 copies. So these seem to be cards that you have really been wrestling with the most over the construction of this deck. So it is kind of interesting that when it came down to it, you should have just played the Super Goof.
Yes, I will never doubt that card again. Like I don't know why. I know it's insane, but I keep doubting Goof. Sorry, my boy.
Hey, you can't get absolutely everything right, but overall it sounds like you were super confident going into Worlds, and that leads us to Section 4, which is your Worlds run. So what I'd like you to talk about here is, again, briefly mention Sealed and like what you thought of your pool, and I think you're going to send me a picture later that I'll be able to put up on the screen for the people so they can see what your pool was, what your deck list was. But yeah, if you could speak to that a little bit, but mostly I'd like you to focus on the Swiss run for Triple Deck Constructed. What was your final score going into day 2? And then to break down the top 8 a little bit. First of all, from how did you feel about your bracket and the matchups that the people that you knew you were going to have to go through, and just any comments in particular about whether it's the Swiss or the top 8 section, like pivotal moments, learning moments, tense moments. And again, feel free to plug the Metafy for a couple of things and say, hey, if you want to hear more about this, come check out the Metafy. But again, anything you're willing to share with us about your actual Worlds run.
We start with Seal Pool. My Seal Pool, I think it wasn't optimal. Like there were so many much stronger pools. I would say my pools was like slightly under average, but was still okay. My main issue was just I had really bad, like my 2-drop slot was really good because I had a lot of 2/2 evasive characters. I think 4 or so. It was really good because I can just already start questing or just deal with their evasive stuff really early. My 3 slot was really bad because I had most of the time like 2 4s, 2 3s. I think only 1 single 3/4, which is like the good stat for for 3 costs.
Yeah.
So I was slightly behind in that. I think I had I don't remember if I had that one. No, I didn't have the Cobra. I didn't play the color. And my 4 slot was okay. Again, I wish I would have a bit more 4/4s. It was okay-ish, not anything special. But my 5 plus 5 and higher cost, that's where my deck was decent. I had the Mushu, for example, the 5 cost red steel Mushu. That one's insane in sealed. Like that one can carry your entire sealed run. I had some decent 6 and 7 drops. Overall, it was just not great, but I felt good during the building part because I was kind of forced to play Ruby deal already, like because of the Mushu, but also I had so many dual inks Ruby steel cards that I was like, okay, I will look into these colors first, and both colors were amazing in terms of they just gave me the best cards of the entire pool that I had, because I checked all the other colors and they were just bad, straight up bad. And then I needed to find like a third color. I could decide between Amethyst because of the evasive stuff, but outside of evasive I barely had anything, so I was like, doesn't seem great. And then I had the Emerald part. Emerald had some decent cards, but also mainly I had the Fidget. It was the Ruby Emerald 4-drop inkable 2/3 evasive. If you quest with the Fidget, you can give another character evasive, so it's a huge bomb. If your opponent doesn't have evasive right now, you can just put like your high lore buddy or whatever into evasive, and then you can quest with both and just raise your opponent, which is a huge part of seal to decide when can you start racing and not. So for example, one time I had like Fidget into Gantu, like the 4 lore Gantu.
Okay.
Looked amazing. I'm like, I'm about to quest for like 6 and then do it again next turn. But then my opponent dropped 2 evasive characters back to back that both could have dealt with the Fidget and the Gantu, so both characters were frozen until like the last turn, where I actually won by questing out. So that was useless kind of, but it was still cool because my opponent also couldn't quest. There are some unique cards like Longboat or Pixie Dust that gives other characters evasive, and then you can trade the evasive away if they start questing, so that's really nice to have. I had Longboat, I drew it quite often. Sometimes it bricked me, but sometimes it just won me the entire game. That's why it's so swingy sometimes. It's really weird. And yeah, from my experience, the first match I was still a bit unsure what to do against my opponent's pool. So I how should I describe it? I didn't went the full way on one strat. I kept my hand like 2 ways, and then that's bricked me a bit because one way was including an unink, and then at some point I drew too many uninks back to back, and then I lost because of that. If I just decide to go for the Jim Hawkins shift line, I think I should have won that. I was on the play and had turn 2 into turn 3 Jim Hawkins, I think. Yeah, the one that pings, the 5/5. And pings 1 damage to your opponent, then I can just start questing. I had that line, but I needed to ink one of the parts away, because I had too many uninks. So that was really bad. So I lost the first round, 1-2. Then I won back to back. I mean, I won. Afterwards, I won every single round. I didn't lost, right? But yeah, that's my takeaway. Like in sealed, you cannot stay flexible. Like you need to just commit to one single thing and just afterwards just hope that your opponent doesn't have a bomb, which I experienced. My opponent just had the Hades, the 6-cost Hades, green purple, just completely destroyed me. My only out was literally countering with Mushu, because if I had my Mushu at that point, I can just challenge his characters. Was Ellie, by the way. So if I challenge his characters, he gains 2 lore of Hades, but I also gain 2 lore of the Mushu. Then it would be balanced, and I can just actually raise my opponent. But because of that, my opponent just quested out, left Hades ready, and quested everything else, and I couldn't do anything against it. It was unfortunate. But the match afterwards, I won with Mushu, so that was also Seki of me. I just slammed on turn 5 Mushu, traded my stuff into their stuff, just gained 2 lore. My stuff survives because of resist 2. It was so Seki. Round 3, I don't really remember, but yeah, that was my Swiss pool, and the feeling I had after finishing the third round was like, yes.
Finally.
It's over. I can't play constructed. Because if we kept playing, I would face at some point like Zan and Frank or Lucas. You know, like they had insane pulls. They had Genie,
Yeah.
Elsa,
Yeah,
Shark.
Frank's,
Like, what are
Frank's
you
deck
doing?
was insane.
Like if they had that against me, I would just straight up scoop. Like I cannot beat that. My pool was not good enough, but not close to
But you
be
got
like, I think
through.
Mushu was my best card.
So then you've got 4 rounds left of Swiss. So yeah, out of those 4 games, are there any particular moments, anything worth highlighting?
Like I played. Okay, I have to say one thing here.
Sure.
Because Ed almost experienced the same. So Ed won 5 dice rolls in a row, and me too. So I won since round 1 till round 5. I won every single dice roll. And in round 6, I lost the dice roll, but still won on the draw. But yeah, I just followed the plan I had in my head for all of this. And people actually were like, why are my opponents not banning my Ruby Sapphire? And it's not how it works. Like, you cannot just ban a deck because someone is supposedly the master of it, right? Like,
thank you
whatever.
so much for saying this, because I've been saying this for weeks and people are saying, no, if it's DKP, you ban red, blue and other names that are associated with certain decks. But I've been hammering my flag into the ground of like, I don't think that's the way the top players think. I think it's far more based on their lineup and what lineup is in front of them, and they're not going to let that really come into it. So yeah, please continue.
Yes, exactly. It's like when you are sitting inwards, you cannot assume, oh, that guy, the Ruby Sapphire guy, only played Ruby Sapphire during his preparation. He never played a different kind of deck. Like what's that assumption? That you cannot make that assumption. We are playing against the best players, 28 top players. Like, there's no way that someone just like, oh, I only want to test one deck in my 3-deck lineup. So that doesn't happen. So that assumption is already wrong. So that just means that they are probably, maybe not masters, but good enough with the other decks just to beat you if you are benching wrong, right? So that means you need to bench accordingly to your strategy, and then also change up your bench sometimes according to what they are running. For example, if you're facing someone, you're on the draw, and you see they have an hyper aggro deck that, when you look at it, most likely will beat every single deck you throw at it. You won't be able to ban your non-ban, which is maybe, let's say, Steel normally, if your lineup doesn't beat the hyper aggro, because then they would just pick the hyper aggro as the first deck, and you just straight up lose the first game. So now what happens is you just auto lose the first game, and now you still have game 2, game 3, right? But if you ban the hyper aggro, and now they maybe still have a really strong on the play Steel deck, they pick that, but now you at least have a chance, because the Steel deck is not like winning all the time on the play, right? But the hyper aggro probably is, because they built it to win on the play. So now I always put my opponents into the weird situation where they are like, normally need to ban my Steel, but since they lost the dice roll, they're like, damn, I need to ban his hyper aggro too, because he just wins game 1 like automatically, and then has 2 chances for his other decks. So most of my opponents banned actually my hyper aggro, besides Kurt and who was it? I think it was only Kurt. Yeah, I played 3 rounds of Swiss, so I think it was only Kurt. Because Kurt was quite confident in his abilities to beat my aggro decks, because he plays his dog deck and his Amethyst Steel deck, and both decks were really well built to beat aggro. So I was afraid of his dog's deck, so I banned his dog. That was really cool, because suddenly we both banned our favorite deck, which is really interesting. And yeah, that match, I read some comments, or like, yeah, some opinions, like why is Federico not banning my red blue, and why and everybody agreed to Kurt that banning my Ruby Sapphire was correct, but it was not. He just banned it because he wanted to avoid the mirror, because I was just simply better than him in the mirror, or like I had just slightly better chances. Wouldn't say that I'm much better, but
yeah,
I just had
you're more
better
experienced with
odds.
it. Whereas he feels that way about hyper aggro. He thinks he's got
yes,
you there.
and he thinks like he can beat both of my aggro decks. That's why he did what he did, right? It was not because I'm the Ruby Sapphire guy. And Federico, he was on the draw. He needed to ban my hyper aggro, right? He cannot ban my Ruby Sapphire because then what happens is I'm playing hyper aggro, win game 1. Game 2, I'm playing a steel deck that is awesome against his decks on the play. And if I'm on the draw, and then if I'm on the play again, I will 100% beat his, not 100%, but most likely beat his item deck. And he couldn't let that happen. So yeah, that's how the ban decisions happen, right? Yeah, and then we went into the top card. The same. I had the rematch against Federico, which from round 4. He already knew he needs to win the mirror match, like his item versus my shark. He needs to win it to have a chance, not even to guarantee win, also to have a chance. Because if he loses that just leaves me with the steel, like my steel deck against his what was it? I think was his green purple and item deck, which both matchups are awesome. So he needed to win that one, which unfortunately enough for me, he lost the first game, and then you saw what happened game 2. And then we had top 4. When I was in top 8, I was like winning my top 8, and I was like, please more win, because I was really afraid of Lance lineup, especially on the draw. And the most lineup first, he plays the lineup that I'm targeting, more or less. Like, I know perfectly what I need to do against that lineup. And second, he would be on the draw on top. So I felt much more confident facing most lineup than Zax, because Zax, I barely have experience, and then I just need to theory craft, like what do I need to do. Like, I run through every single simulation in my head regarding the bench strat and what Zach is gonna do. He did what I expected, but in my opinion, I put up the wrong deck as game 1, but we can ignore that, I guess. Yeah, I was
see
just
the
afraid.
Metafy for that. I'm sure you'll talk about why you think it was the wrong deck.
Nah, this was just I should have just picked the other deck first to give me a slightly better chance, but it was okay. Still, I was really afraid of his lineup because he was probably starting with purple steel. I expected that. I need to ban his hyper aggro deck, the Ruby Amber,
The
again.
Amber Ruby,
even
yeah.
though I plan to ban steel all the time. I cannot let him run on the play auto win deck, because if he just starts Daisy Pickle, I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
So I cannot do that. And he also plays Reach on top, so he has like the lore gain with Goof. He plays LeFou, so you can ready like stuff again. Like, yeah, if I get hit by
Orange
that, I'm
Boar, the
probably
racer
losing.
that he won his top 8 game with against Mo. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
But yeah, unfortunately Mo didn't win, so I needed to prep myself already. Fortunately enough, I was the second top 4 match, so I could just sit and meditate, think about like what should I ban and so on. Also discuss it with my teammates, like, oh, what do you think I should ban? We all came to the conclusion, yeah, just hit this hyper aggro and hope for the best. Worked out, fortunately enough. Zach missed the one job. If he didn't miss the one job, I think I would have lost that game, first game. And then what came down to basically me running red blue against his item deck on the play. Let's say for some reason I win that, and then it will come down to me playing hyper aggro on the draw against his item decks, which I don't know if I can win. I actually don't know, but yeah,
we'll never know. We'll never know. Well, who knows? Maybe in the future, in a different meta. But that leads you to the finals, and you mentioned it earlier. It's a full circle moment. The one who knocked you out of top 16 at a prior DLC, and I think Ed is very much like a measuring stick for Lorcana. Like, look at the run he's had over the course of the season. Fort Worth, North American Championship. Second place in now the World Championship, and known to have a bit of a friendly rivalry with Zan, but also one with you apparently, which saw us out. So tell us about that final.
Everybody gets it wrong. Ed and me are like just good friends.
Of course, friendly rivalry, of course.
No, it's not even a rivalry. Like, we don't see each other as rivals. Like, we see each other as like colleagues, you know. Mm-hmm. So the interesting thing here is, it looked really close, the match, like we went to game 5 and so on. But if you just analyze the list, Ed's lineup just has a major flaw, and it is his Ruby Sapphire deck. His Ruby Sapphire deck was a huge bottleneck for him into my lineup because if you look at it, he doesn't have the tools to beat the aggro decks. Again, the purple steel is just gaining 20 lore. He cannot stop it. The hyper aggro, even if he starts with Bell, he needs exactly like Bell, Tipo, Tail, Sisu, Small Sisu into Big Sisu. Like he needs exactly this 5-card combo to attempt to beat like a triple 1-drop opening. And his mirror match, quote unquote, against my Shark deck, he doesn't run any early removal for Shark. He doesn't run any hideaways. He doesn't run Rush Maui. Like, if I just drop like turn 4 Shark, turn 5 Shark, because I just know he doesn't run a beat prep, I cannot get punished. And these 2 Sharks alone will gain me like 15 lore alone, probably in like 2 turns. If I just hit one single develop or vision and just chain them back to back. So his deck just had, his Ruby Sapphire deck has a huge flaw against all of my 3 decks. Mm-hmm. So I was not really worried. Of course, you are still always worried because you can break, your opponent can draw like super nuts, like whatever. But on average, I knew already, okay, this is favored for me. I don't really care what happens with the green, purple, and steel. He could win 2-0. Then he needs to win with his Ruby Sapphire, and that's like an interesting thing. We always talk about sealed and 3-deck format with the bench as 2 formats, right? Mm-hmm. But the finals is basically a 3rd format because you need to win with all 3 decks. So if you build in a flaw into your deck by accident or even by default, then that can hit you back in the finals. So in this case, it just hit him because again he couldn't beat either of the 3. So I think his lineup was really well built. He played really well. Just the flaw in his Ruby Sapphire was his issue. And funny enough, he just told me in the finals, like, I didn't expect to reach the finals. That's why I just don't have a plan for the finals. I'm like, yeah, of course. I also didn't plan for the finals. Like, we both didn't know like how the dynamic was because nobody ever tried, let's play test without the bench, right? Like reaching finals is fine enough. But again, the flaw was just...
That's when it was exposed. Yeah. And when you say you felt favored, you mean... When you say you felt favored, you're just talking like on paper, like you look at the lists and the flaws as you notice them, then it should go your way. And it absolutely did. You are crowned the first ever world champion. I was honored to be a part of that award ceremony. Kind of already got to do the first official interview, really. But that was so much fun. What a moment for you. So now I'd love you to talk a little bit about everything since that moment, since you held the trophy high and everyone's hugging and good vibes are flowing, the crowd are cheering and clapping and the cameras go off. What has life looked like for you since then? I know you had some time in Disneyland the next day. What was that like? And then between then and now, what has life looked like for you, our first world champion?
Ooh. So I still needed like a few days to really let it sink in. I still couldn't, like, right now I would be like, I'm like 80% believing it, 20% still like, what actually happened, Like I ran around the trophy because my friends forced me to take photos in Disneyland with the Mickey. Maybe you saw that.
That photo was so good.
Yeah, that was insane,
I
right?
loved that photo.
It's somewhere. Let me look for it while I'm talking. So
yeah,
I had I brought the trophy too, so everybody had a chance to take a photo of that, just also for the memory. It was really awesome. I spent a lot of time with my teammates, having just a great time. Yeah, and then I went home. Afterwards, I went to the grading company, CGC, and graded the Mickey like on Tuesday, right before I was flying. So that was a travel, like I can tell you. It was actually hard because I needed to wake up like after 1 hour sleep or so. And that just boils down to me right now. I'm still so sleepy. I sleep so much every day to recover from the jet lag and all,
of course,
like the sleepless nights basically at Worlds. Yeah, just feels great to be world champion, to actually look at this wonderful Mickey. Like, I had my
Oh,
eyes on it so long.
I
You know,
bet,
like
man.
1-1 world champ, and finally I
Yeah,
got it.
I can
Feels
only
a bit
imagine,
unreal.
man. What
Just
it's
was so
like to
fast.
hold that in your hand after all this time. Again, you've had a couple of Mickeys, but you are setting the standard with that one. There will never be another, and yeah, the trophy turned out super good. So yeah, what an amazing season for you, man. I'm super chuffed for you. People respect you as one of the hardest workers. You've been putting in the grind, traveling to all these events, and again, I daren't even imagine how much you're even just thinking of the game on default when you're doing other things and what you're doing in your private time. Like, it all shows. Your records speak for themselves. And yeah, I just want to say one more time, congratulations on what will be an achievement. As far as I'm concerned, Lorcana is going to be here for a long time, and in 25 years they will still be showing clips of that moment, you rising the trophy. And I'd like to ask you about that very briefly, because you said that you played Yu-Gi-Oh very competitively and you had success, but you never achieved that world championship or that big win that you were looking for. Does this help with that? Like, feel like you're filling some unfinished business doing so in Lorcana?
Yes, but it feels even better in my opinion, because in Lorcana I just feel like I have the full control of of everything, like deck choice, deck building, like so much matters. And since I've started, like as you explained earlier, how I built the Ruby Sapphire decks, I always felt like I can gain so much edge by gameplay, deck building over my opponent, and I was never feeling like, oh, I was super lucky or something. It was most of the time always like, yeah, somewhat calculated or expected in terms of like the variance. Yeah, it just feels so much more rewarding than in Yu-Gi-Oh! Whenever I top, because in Yu-Gi-Oh! Sometimes I just top super deep. I'm like, I just got so lucky.
Yeah.
I got super lucky. But here, I was like, I still got lucky, of course, for example, winning against like Zach. But it's part of it, right? I prepared so much, my lineups against everything. Like, I just gave myself the best shot at winning, and yeah, it worked out.
That's all anyone could do, like you say. There's always going to be some luck, but you put yourself in the position to win, you put in the work, and you benefit from the labours. So that's awesome. Can you quickly just show off the prizes for everybody now?
Yeah,
I think
sure.
now's a good time. So what did you get?
Yeah, so first things first, like the small goodies that you got, that was actually amazing because we didn't know about that before. So first, this is like for the +1, so we got like a notebook. Lorcana notebook, still sealed. I probably will never use it. I don't know, feels like a waste to write down lore. Then we got a D23 set. Nice. It was all a package in a backpack, which I also show you guys. Probably some of you have already seen.
Still, so, let's treat it like it's the first time. That is gorgeous. What a
it's just like a
item.
Decent sized backpack that you can use. I will actually use it, so
nice.
Even though it's probably worth like quite a lot of money, because
probably.
Yeah, it's only 28. What else do we get? We got the
deck box.
Deck box and the binder, this same one. Don't want to pull it out. And this is also really awesome, right? We got like a bottle of water.
Bottle of water.
Bottle of water. It's branded, so really cool, right? It's just World Championship
sick.
branded.
It's sick. It's sick.
Really sick. Then we got a +1. We also got sleeves, which, see if I can find them. We also got a pen. That's also cool.
Well, thankfully, if you can't, we are gonna be honest. We got the sleeves as well.
Nice. Sleeves, one word sleeves, really awesome, really beautiful. Then there was a +1 bag, which include the bucket hat.
Thanks, shout out to Brandon. I'm convinced he's the reason these exist. Brandon on the commentary team.
It's actually crazy because we competitive didn't even get it. It's like for our +1.
Wow,
but yeah, I still have it to show off all the prizes.
Nice.
What else do we get?
Nice Lorcana pen.
I mean, I can show you guys the pricing for winning worlds, or like at least the top card. So just a bunch of prize cards, right?
Stunning.
These are just the prize cards that you got for reaching finals, I think, or top 4. No, finals. And then the whole new world that is already graded as a 10. So I got 3, not 4, unfortunately. So one was for participation, another one was for getting 5 wins, and then another one I think was for the finals, I think.
Or top
winning.
4, I think, got them. It was either top 4 or top 2.
Oh, top 4 got also. This is the top 4 prize.
Yes, that was top 4. Yeah, so top 2 for a whole new world. That sounds right.
So
And
this is the most
binder.
funny thing, right? I got entire set 8 binder, but I didn't use one single card out of it.
It's still stunning though, right?
Yeah, the enchanters are amazing. That's why I kept it instead of selling it, because I really like the enchanters. So I just said, okay, let's keep it.
Yeah, that's your memorabilia. That's your token of a
exactly.
of a wonderful memory. 2 Mickeys.
And then the 2 Mickeys. So this is like the regular one, 201, and then this is
the one of one.
Grail.
The Holy Grail of Lorcana. It actually is Lorcana's Holy Grail. Amazing.
I don't even know what I'm gonna do with that because I worked so hard to get it. So
yeah,
I'm really emotional. Like the other Mickeys, I don't really care that much because they are just numbered like whatever. But this one-on-one just sounds crazy, right? And here's my other one that's still lying around here, ungraded. And actually, I won a playset now, so I could play a playset.
I think the Lorcana community would lose their mind if they saw you play a gold-plated Mickey at a DLC, but we can live in hope. But what a set of prizes, DKP, and like well earned, like what an achievement, and again, just the entire Disney experience. And I'd like to end us off, I mean, we'll finish off on thank yous and plugs, but talking to the Disney experience. I'd like to do a short game with you. Hopefully it'll take 2 to 5 minutes. But it's something that I started playing on the channel recently with, I had Steve Warner as a guest on the channel, and just a little idea I came up with, and this could be something for the Disney fans in the audience who maybe are more casual players of Lorcana, but I'm sure they'd love to get some insight into your Disney fandom. So this game is called Glimmer Island, and the rules of this game are that you need to spend 1 week in a Lorcana location of your choice. It has to be in the game. There has to be a card of it. It can be any location. You can have 1 Lorcana item with you, 1 record box with a Lorcana song on it for you to listen to while you're trapped on this island, although it could be anything, any location you like, and a Glimmer who is going to keep you company. And that Glimmer can do all the things you would expect that Glimmer to be able to do, except help you escape. So you can't just pick Peter Pan and say he's going to fly me home. There's no escaping the location. You've got to stay there. But what's the location? What's the item? What's the song? And what Glimmer would you take with you?
Okay, the first 3 are super easy, right?
Okay.
MacDuck Manor, Popsicle,
yeah,
and How Far I Go.
Perfect. We're done.
Just so easy, right?
Yeah.
The character actually is a bit harder because, I mean, Maui probably will have a great time with. Tamato was a villain, so probably not.
I mean, if you take the trophy, Tamatoa might be nice to you. That's pretty shiny.
Actually true. But I have to give it to him, so I don't know.
True, so maybe not Tamatoa.
Let me think for a sec. So I could also pick... No, actually, I think Mario would be the best, like dancing, you know, like doing the dance.
The Hero Tool version, or the Hero Tool, not the Half Shark. Which one?
Probably Hero Tool is
the Hero Tool.
Better than the Half Shark, yeah.
So you and Maui eating a popsicle in the top window of McDuck Manor, and you're happy there for a week.
Yes.
Perfect.
Him,
what a week away. I'll book the tickets immediately. DKP, to finish us off, mate, again, I want to say thank you so much for joining me. And again, it was an honor to be front and center to watch you take down the World Championship. Please finish off with any shout outs, any thank yous, any plugs, anything you want to say. The floor is yours.
Yes. So I will first and foremost thank you to my girlfriend helping me preparing before the bootcamp. Was a huge help. Then thanking my team, The bootcamp was awesome. Thanking especially Robert, our team owner, Kurt, Frank, my fellow world competitor colleagues. Then, of course, everyone who was at the bootcamp, Candle, Jonathan, Rob Dehan, the +1 of Frank. Then, so many people. Who else was there? Logan, of course. Justin Morales. Cam. Sorry if I forgot someone. Too many.
So many people.
And then, of course, the people who specifically helped me with the deck. So there was Luminator, Robert. He helped me with the Purple Steel Hyper Aggro. Unfortunately, I didn't end up taking it. Also, Bennett, who helped me with the Lemon Lime discard. Both were basically working on the same lineup. Helped me a lot. But again, unfortunately, I didn't take it. Yeah, especially thanks to Justin Shaft. I think I forgot him to mention him in the bootcamp shout out. But Justin Shaft, he helped me a lot with the mental, with the broom deck especially. He's like, I don't know if he's the inventor, but he's like the guy who just pushed it on the entire time. His friend Chris won the CCS, I think, the week before the brooms. Yeah. I learned everything for brooms of Justin, so huge help. And thank you to my masterclass to teach me about the Shark deck. So
absolutely.
If you guys want to learn more about the Shark deck or in general Lorcana, because I'm branching out to other decks now afterwards, because now I can reveal basically what I know about the other decks without telling anyone what lineup I'm gonna want to bring, right? Yeah, so if you want to learn more, just tune into my Metafy, probably in the link down below. Either get the guide or join my Discord through the subscription, and we will talk a lot about different kind of decks. Both word now, especially when rotation hits, we will have a lot of things to cook. So I'm really excited for that. And if you wanna join our amazing community of world-class cards, feel free to join the Metafy of WCC. We have a lot of events there now, and also a lot of articles and content so you guys can learn. Thank you all. Thank you, Baker, for inviting me here. It was really awesome to talk with you all and share my journey with you.
And that is it. A huge thank you to DKP for taking some time to talk to me and going into such depths as well. I really hope you guys watching got as much out of that as I did. But we're going to wrap it up for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit that like button to show your support. And we'll see you soon.